We'll call the meeting to order. This is the March 18th, 2025 meeting of the Landmarks and Historic Districts Board for the town of Southampton. Present are members Stephanie Davis, William Hines, Susan Sherry Clark, Tim Ganettis, Jeff Gibbons, Vicky Kahn, Larry Jones, and Samantha Malone. This meeting is being conducted under town and New York state law, providing for in-person and remote participation. Individuals may undertake remote participation by activating the Zoom links found on the published agenda and the town clerk's portal page. Viewer-only observation is found by activating the live link at the top of the town clerk's meeting portal page. Online participation is being moderated by Kevin of CTV. For comment on a particular agenda item, please notify CTV via the chat function so that comment can be made. Commentators, both in person and online, will need to provide name, agency, if any, and place of residence or business. So with that, I think we can go to the first usual item of business, which is the minutes of our previous meeting, February 18th, 2025. They were circulated by Stephanie, and were there any?
There were a couple of extremely minor tweaks which were made last week, and a revised copy was recirculated.
Okay, thanks. Is there any other concern about the minutes? I'll move their approval. We have a second by Larry Jones. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. In our usual practice, we will alter the agenda to entertain individuals who are online and present for particular applications to expedite their presence here. Kevin, do we have online Sheila Comparetto for 130 Noyak Road, North Sea?
No, we do not.
Okay. In that case, we'll go to, do we have online someone for 99 Lumber Lane, either Stephen Klein or Mehal Talis?
Yes, we do.
Okay, why don't we take up then their application? So for your information, late this afternoon, we received some correcting information for the application of 99 Lumber Lane in Bridgehampton. The original application did not describe accurately and present appropriate architectural renderings of the work that was actually planned, and when those discrepancies were pointed out, then this afternoon both the owner and the architect speedily responded to provide additional information. And if I can, I will bring up that item here. There it is, under application corrected. So, okay, the proposed work for this house involves looking at, and let me just bring up also the other item associated with it. This is a house on Lumber Lane that dates probably to a little bit before the turn of the 20th century. The plan for this house involves a number of items. One, to put a expansion of the northwest corner of this room off of the covered porch that you see on the front of the house. In addition, what was not in the original application that was sent out, there was to erect a second story on the north wing of the house, and on the rear of the house to reconstruct the covered porch at the east facade of the house. So if I can get the drawings here. This house was identified as a historic resource in the 2014 Town of Southampton survey. This, you would be looking at the street-facing facade of the house. This area here is that a 51 square feet expansion of an existing room. This represents the erection of a second story with a gabled roof present on the house. And also to be noted is the installation of a standing seam copper roof, which replaces a shingled roof sloped that faces the street. This is the proposed elevation on the north side of the house that, for the most part, is very close to the house next to it. It's close to the property line. This house sits on a very narrow lot. And this is on the east elevation. This area was area of a covered porch existing. And as you can see, again, this is the opposite side of the house. The original application had a bunch of very good photographs in it. I don't know how much attention you might have given to it, just to bring that up to give you an idea of the existing condition. So this is the front facade of the house. This is the south-facing facade of the house. And this is kind of the southeast corner of the house. This is the existing house, and here is where the second story would be put on the existing first story of the house. and the rest are essentially, I think, not pertinent pictures for us to deal with. So the house, I could not identify historic figures for it, although there is a history to the house and somewhat some ambiguous history in the report that I sent around. I showed some mapping that was present on the house. This is an 1873 map, shows a pair of houses located on Lumber Lane. The house that is of interest is the house of Mrs. Hedges. The name was misspelled on the map by the scrivener for the Beers map. An 1894 map shows the house now in possession of Samuel A. Seeley, someone of an interesting biographical detail. He originally came from Brooklyn with his father. His father had gotten the mail contract to take mail from Brooklyn to Sag Harbor in 1825 from the administration of John Quincy Adams. So this guy was a kid, came out, grew up in Sag Harbor, became a businessman, unfortunately serving the whaling industry, so that when the whaling industry disappeared from Sag Harbor, his business life went downhill. He moved to Brooklyn to become, I think, a ship's chandler for a while and some other business activity, and eventually retired back to Bridgehampton here, having bought that house, and I've traced the deed activity associated with it. Seeley is still living there in 1902. In 1916, the house goes to a gentleman named Richard Hagerman. Hagerman has the distinction of working for, at one point, Nikola Tesla, when Tesla was building his attempts at radio towers in Shoreham. And Hagerman was employed by Tesla to paint the towers, though that experiment at radio transmission obviously was outclassed by Marconi, and eventually the towers were removed about 1920 or 25 there. But Hagerman found romance in Hayground and married a Hayground gal and settled into Bridgehampton and stayed there for many years. The Hagerman basically had that house, the Hagerman family had that house for about 40 years until they sold it to a Bridgehampton farmer named, who had 10 children. The farmer did not use it for his own residence. He bought it for his kids as they were getting married to move out of his house. And when there weren't any married kids, he rented the house out for boarders for a period of time as well. And then 1956, a descendant of the famous Brennan farming families of Bridgehampton bought the house and kept it for 38 years as well. So the house has a pedigree, a known pedigree for Bridgehamptonites, but no one of great, I would say, historical note. one problem I had with the house, I don't know, it's, difficult because we didn't get the contemporary information we have now until late. But one of the questions I raised was the installation of a standing seam copper roof, which is not characteristic of the neighborhood. If I can possibly bring up the neighborhood here. So this is the house. This is a very small lot. These lots were subdivided somewhat from larger lots in the 1920s when Bridgehampton was undergoing real estate development, and people were cashing in on what they could. But if you look, these houses pretty much have traditional building materials and roofing materials. The porches that are exposed to Lumber Lane are basically of traditional materials and not particularly using metal roofs. We faced this issue before on a couple of houses elsewhere, and I know we had this discussion for a house on Hildreth Lane in Bridgehampton at one point about 5 or 6 years ago. My sense is I think it would be reasonable to ask the architect to perhaps revisit the idea. Our role is merely, in this case, not a landmark, not in a historic district at this point, is really advice. And that would be a piece of advice I would suggest that be recommended to them. I don't know how others might feel about this.
It's a potential historic district, possibly.
Well, yes, I should mention that there is a group of citizens who are preparing an application for the residential properties in a historic district. The last I heard, they had identified about 300 in the Hamlet area. I don't know how far along that that.
I was just going by AKRF saying that it was.
Right. Well, they outlined the same kind of thing. Yes, you're right about that. That 2014 study. Yes. The bulk of the I think the addition visible from the street, both the second story element and the small expansion of the first floor northwest corner off the roof, that they're in character. They certainly will fill in between the houses that are rather already closely parked together in that area of Lumber Lane, and will create a different sense for the street.
Yeah, I'm sure that the architect and owner are acutely aware of the houses in the surrounding area. So I would ask the question, why the selection of this particular material? Why a copper standing roof or standing seam roof in this location and for this house?
So,
He has an answer.
well, we can address our question to
The owner or architect?
Zoom participants here. Can we have some thoughts about the idea of having the copper roof for the porch?
Unmute.
Kevin, is he on for volume? Mayor?
Yes,
Okay, we hear you.
good evening. One quick note, As per the owner's request, we provided the metal roof, the copper roof there. My only comment is, I'll go with whatever the board and the client recommend, but copper roofs have been used for over 200 years. Not maybe a standing seam roof, but a flat seam roof, as the gentleman knows. I'll leave it up to Mr. Klein to comment on that.
Hi, thank you first for taking the time to meet with us. Really appreciate that. And apologies for the late update on the information, but now you have everything. So the inspiration for that metal roof comes from two houses to the south. They have metal roofs just like that, and we're just trying to mimic it. That was the idea.
I'm trying to think of which houses those would be. These houses are on Lumber Lane to the south? Well, this, among other things, this aerial is from 2023, I believe. So there might have been some
He's talking.
some change. So, well, in any case, the inspiration is what it is. So I would still perhaps ask you to reflect a little bit on how it relates to the surrounding houses. And, you know, if it'll be up to you, it's not something that we're going to, you know, require. We're not in a position to require it since it's not a landmark and not a historic district, so.
May I add one other thing? I believe on Maple Lane, as you head west, so
On Maple,
make the left. They just renovated a house there, and as you approach the train station on the south side of Maple, and I don't know that address at all, but I believe they did the same metal roof concept. Renovation.
yeah, I think
Renovations.
this,
I walk my dog there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be the property that you're talking about. There was a property that was being remodeled. Let's see here. I guess this might be it here. It's kind of abuts the town building. Yeah, this is is that it? So, but you know, be that as it may, you know, we're just kind of looking at the character of the Lumber Lanes streetscape, and that's really the kind of context I think that's best used as a measure for you know, how it would appear. So, any other kinds of concerns? So, well, I would recommend, you know, that we not object to what is proposed, except making our comments appropriately for a reconsideration of the street-facing metal roof on the front porch. Any concerns about that? Okay, well, I think, a couple days, we'll have a response back to the building department. The application is complete, and it was corrected, and thank you for getting it to us. I was hoping that maybe we'd have time to do it in April rather than tonight, but it's done, and so I'm certainly compliment the speed with which things were put together this afternoon to help get this application done, so.
All credit to the mayor.
All right. Okay, thank you, all right,
Have a good night, guys.
right, thank
Very
you.
much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Right. Okay. Kevin, do we have North Sea? Sheila?
North Sea Schoolhouse?
North Sea Schoolhouse, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we have the application from the North Sea Schoolhouse Association for both a certificate of appropriateness and for a landmarks maintenance award. Just for our newer members, there is an account that was established as a community benefit some years ago for basically some historic preservation purposes, including not only buildings but cemeteries for the town of Southampton. And over the years, since 2012 or 13, the Landmarks Board has recommended to the town board the dispensing of awards for maintenance for various structures that have been landmarked and are subject to the Landmarks Board oversight. And the amount of money that's available in recent times is probably in the range of $95,000 to $98,000. Yeah, well, we usually, when it comes time for the award, we check with the comptroller to make sure all the dollars are there. The project is to insulate the North Sea Schoolhouse with insulation blown into the attic and into the walls from the outside. And the bid that they received, which they are seeking award money for, is $5,291 there. Sheila, would you like to present information relative to this?
Yes, I would love to. The North Sea Community Schoolhouse Association has had to shut the heat down for the past 2 years because of the expense of oil. We have been self-sufficient since 1931 and have always been able to maintain the building as beautiful as it is. But the extremely high heating cost and the fact that the building is not used as much by the community in January, February, and beginning of March, they made the decision 2 years ago to have the building completely winterized. The Tony Plumbing came in and drained the pipes and did all the work necessary to be able to turn the heat off completely. That being said, the first time they decided to do this, I looked at the walls and I said, that's not going to be a good idea. And I spoke to a few people who are informed about historic preservation, and they said, you have plaster walls. It's really not a good example of proper maintenance. They said, leave it even at a degree where you could keep the heat at a very low temperature. But because the building had absolutely no insulation in the walls and nothing basically to speak of in the attic, they decided that before we did anything, we really had to have the building properly insulated. We received a grant from the Gardner Foundation, and that allowed us to paint and restore some of the woodwork in the building. And the painters and the people who did the restoration of the sheetrock and the woodwork had to really work very hard, because some of the cracks in the walls had widened to a point where you just couldn't fill it with a little plaster. They had to really work at it. So we saw that already with 2 years, the effect of a 30-degree room, it was just having a tremendous effect on the condition of the walls. So the board for the North Sea Community Schoolhouse Association decided that we absolutely had to do the insulation of the building. So at this point, we would try also to do the floors and continue the restoration of the actual classroom. So they decided that that was the way to go. Jeff came to see the building, and I think, Jeff, you could verify that it looks absolutely beautiful. Now we would like to keep it that way, and that would mean putting the heat back on in the winter next year to make sure that we don't return to cracked plaster walls and some split woodwork. The mitered corners of some of the woodwork were having stressful points also. So I think it's a win-win situation. We have managed to keep the building absolutely pristine, but we could really use the grant to help us keep it that way. And even though it's not a visual improvement, it's absolutely an improvement on the building. I came across something that went back from the Landmark Board in 2013, and it said, quote, historic buildings' original materials are essential to the preservation and maintenance of its integrity levels. I think the the plaster walls are an indication of the historical integrity of the building. So I'm hoping that the board will approve our application for the grant. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Okay, well, thank you, Sheila, and I know you had a busy afternoon with other meetings, and we're squeezing this
Thank you for
to.
allowing me to speak early, too.
Right, okay. 10 o'clock did not appeal to you, so.
No, I've had a long day.
Right. Jeff, did you have some comments to make?
Sure. The building looks fabulous. Sheila pointed out several of the improvements in where there had been huge cracks that had occurred over the course of those 2 winters, and they're all gone. Woodwork has been restored. Bead at the edge of the doorways as you walk in and out was hacked and chopped up from years of use, and it's been replaced and repaired that you would never know that they ever did anything. And on the outside of the building, that's how they got the insulation into the wall cavities. You have to be told what that mark is from, and it's not like it repeats every 10 seconds. You wouldn't know. I didn't know that anything had been done to the building.
So, Sheila, if I remember hearing rumors about faulty windows associated with the schoolhouse as well?
Yes, in fact, we were very, very fortunate. The work that was done on the inside of the building, the person who did that opted to change the chains on the windows that did not go up and down. And somehow or another, they put enough silicone or some kind of, I don't know what material it was exactly, that now we can get the storm windows up and down. One of them had to be replaced, I guess, a couple of years ago because the window broke because it jammed and someone tried to pull it down. So now they are working. We would really love to replace the white metal aluminum storm windows with a more historic material, and we did get an estimate, and the estimate was over $15,000, and that was, I think, 2 years ago. So now we know that that cost will go up, but the expensive part of it was the cost of the window almost equaled the installation of the window. So there was no way that we had $30,000 to spend. And I know, Ed, you suggested, and it's going to be taken into consideration, that to do part of them, to do like the front windows. But the problem was still, that's probably $15,000. And I think that now that we know that we're able to apply for grants, I spoke to Julie Green, and we're talking about getting New York State historical status and the federal historical status. And that would help us to apply for more grants. And grants like the Gardner Foundation can be applied for each year. So that's our next move. We have a young member who is very good with writing grants, and she was the one who was able to get the Gardner grant for us. So I think that we're looking forward to doing that as a schoolhouse association. We'll see.
Okay. Well, there is the proposal to there's an application for a grant. And the question is this something that you wish to do?
Yes, absolutely. This is why we would really, need this grant to be applied for. Absolutely, we hope to be able to. I submitted the paperwork, but I'm not sure if there's any other validation other than the actual inspection by the Landmark Board Committee, if they would like to come. In fact, we hope to have an open house this spring, and I would definitely love to show any of the members of the Landmark Board our building. We're very proud. We really are. It's a beautiful building.
I think many of us are familiar with it already from years going back. So,
Yeah.
But in any case, we do have new members but I'm sure you have probably been there, Samantha from North Sea. So, Larry, I don't know.
I've been by it, haven't been in.
By it. So there are maybe some takers when the open house possibility comes up. But so for board members, is there a motion to the bid that was presented was $5,291? Is there a motion to approve that? Moved by Vicky, seconded by Jeff. And discussion?
Yes, 5290, the full amount for the grant is what we're talking about. Okay, that would chew up more than half of the remaining maintenance funds.
No, it's 5,291.
And how much do we have?
95.
98,000 or so.
98? I thought I heard 9,500. It's 90. Oh, okay, fine. I'm glad I heard wrong.
So, okay, any further questions?
I think, just as a comment, one of the big issues that we work on all the time on historic buildings is air infiltration. And as important as insulation is, equally important is trying to reduce air infiltration, one with storms, inside or outside, and sealing around casings that go around doors and windows, sealing baseboards. All this kind of stuff should be almost invisible when it's completed, but it can make a huge difference in being able to heat these buildings. So I think in the future, if you concentrate to some degree on air filtration, eliminating it, that would be really good.
I think that some of that is addressed by the fact that they have these aluminum storm windows on the outside,
Yeah.
which aren't really appropriate for the building. And then the fact that that guy took the windows out and reinstalled the chains,
Change, uh-huh.
and they did a painting job, so they really did
Tighten them up.
tighten them up,
Yeah.
tighten up a lot of the windows and doors.
I think a few years back, they also caulked the inside of the storm windows because the old caulking had failed. So I think that was done also, but I'm not sure how long ago it was. It might be. I will make a note to speak to the building chairperson and ask them to please check that out because that's definitely an important aspect. Now that the storm windows are working better and the chains prevented the windows from, falling and whatnot and possibly be broken, that was a big plus. But I will ask the building person about checking the caulking of the windows. But when the installation was done, I was very happy to see that they actually used the proper baffles in the attic so that they will not be ice dammed because where the cold meets the heat, it can create problems. I had it on a home of ours in Huntington, and it can be a serious situation if you have ice damming. So they were very, very good, the insulation company. And we're pleased with that. But thank you for the consideration in any way of helping us with the installation. That it's a big, big plus. And the company did a beautiful job too.
Okay, well, we have to vote on it first, so all those in favor of recommending to the town board $5,291 disbursement for 2025 Landmarks Maintenance Award, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, so we will pass our recommendation along to the town board fairly shortly.
Thank you very much for allowing
And-
me to speak.
All right, and we have one more.
Thanks for all the wonderful work you do. Thank you.
Right. And we have one more technical consideration here. Since this is a landmark building, and there was as well a parallel application for a certificate of appropriateness for the work. You've inspected the work, Jeff, and it's consistent with the existing historical character of the building.
Want me to do a report? You said?
And yes, if you would, yeah. So,
All right.
but in any case, the question is we should approve a certificate of appropriateness by a vote. So is there a motion to that effect? Moved by Samantha, seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion on the certificate of appropriateness for the insulation project? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous and approved. So I think all the paperwork is good to go. And good luck with the project.
Thank you again, and I will send an invitation. I'll let you know when we have our open house. Thanks again.
Okay, and thank you for all you do. I know you're also involved with the Tupper Boathouse, which haunted me in 2014 So, I'm glad for all the work you're doing to keeping that effort viable.
Thank you again. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, okay, we have finished with that, and now we can proceed to the certificate of appropriateness discussion for 2200 Montauk Highway. And let me see if I can bring up the pictures that were provided with the application here. So this is a bank branch located in the building, the old Bridgehampton Bank, not the old, the new, the old Bridgehampton Bank's new building, but now belonging to something else other than a bank. Would you give your name and
Sure.
identification? Right.
Good evening. My name is J.R. DeCiccio with the law firm of Greenberg Chorig, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton, New York. Want me to begin, or you want to begin?
Yeah, why don't you just summarize
So I'm
what
appearing tonight on behalf of the applicant, Dime Community Bank, in connection with its branch located at 2200 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. As Mr. Wilcox said, the application involves the replacement of a Bridgehampton National Bank sign with a Dime Bank sign. Now, the sign in question is less than 5 square feet in total. It's going to be located on the east side of the building, underneath the roofed-over entranceway to the bank. Importantly, I went to the site today and I took a few pictures. It's if visible from the public right-of-way, it's barely visible. I don't know that it's legible. I do have some additional pictures if the board would like.
well, let's see if you can pass them around and,
Want me to pass them?
yeah, why don't you?
They're all just 3 different vantage points.
Just for the record, that place was not you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
So am I.
So as you can see from the previous aerial, prior to Dime occupying the bank, Bridgehampton National Bank had a nearly identical sign in the exact same location. And you already have the side-by-side comparisons. And due to the parking lot configuration and location of the entranceway to the bank, there's really no feasible alternative location for the sign. The goal of this sign is not to advertise the bank to traffic on Montauk Highway. It's really to make a visible and safe entrance to the bank for the patrons who are parked in the parking lot to the east. The sign's not illuminated. It complies with all dimensional requirements of the town code. And again, is, if at all visible from Montauk Highway, it's barely visible.
So the sign location that's marked on the application is not actually where the sign is going.
I'm not sure what document.
On the site plan, it was rather,
See where the sign location is marked? It's
the
like
X is in
right
the wrong
next to
spot.
Montauk Highway.
I'm not sure who's.
That's the
Site.
application.
Yeah, I don't believe. No, that's not. The sign location is right
It's-
here.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the map that was submitted with the application is
It's
incorrect.
inaccurate, but I think
Basically right there.
for the most part, that aspect is inconsequential in terms of what's being proposed.
I assume this is a non-illuminated sign.
Non-illuminated, yep, correct.
No light shining on it, no light shining.
I mean, there might be lights under the, actually, no, there's, looks like there's one light under the entranceway, but it's not shining on the sign. It's,
Yeah, but it's a covered portico
Yeah.
that exists. There's a driveway.
And it doesn't.
If you look at the
say anything.
area, there's a driveway that is covered.
Shows.
Somebody already did a temporary,
yeah, there's a temporary sign up there.
yeah.
I think it's just more to cover the Bridgehampton National Bank sign.
Yeah, well, one question I have with respect to that nameplate sign for BNB Bank is that it's probably the last nameplate surviving in Bridgehampton for the Bridgehampton National Bank before it was absorbed into Dime. And I think it would be useful when the sign is replaced that it be offered to the Bridgehampton Museum as a possible artifact reflective of the history of the community.
Yeah, I can certainly suggest that to my client, of course.
Right. You know, it's just I know that you know, the Bridgehampton Bank has had a long history from early 1905 or so, and it originally was in the Starbucks building, and this building was built either 1992 or 1994 as the new headquarters of the Bridgehampton Bank.
Right.
And when it merged into the larger network, the headquarters would move to Hauppauge. So a lot of, there's not a lot of residue for the history of that bank, although it was very important in the development of the community. And the museum, if it was interested, and I kind of think it would be interested in it, but I haven't spoken to anybody, but I think it'd be nice if it got offered to them as an option to keep.
Sure. Yeah, I will make that suggestion to my client.
Okay. To me, this lot, this sign faces the parking house in a covered area, very small in character. That is not a problem that I see for this building. And I would, you know, say that I would recommend approving of it. But there is another aspect to this, and that is the question of the number of signs or the placement of signs. There is another Dime Bank sign here at the entrance of the driveway, which has more of a billboard characteristic than it does, I think, anything else in its placement. And I'm not sure when it was placed or if it was placed with proper approvals.
I did see that today.
Pardon?
I did see that sign today when I drove
Yeah,
by.
so, again, I don't know, the dating of this might require some inspection, but this certainly was not a sign that ever came before the Landmarks Board, and the Landmarks Board notice of the historic district is, I think, around November of 2023.
Okay.
An aerial view of March 2023 doesn't show this sign present in that location. So the question is, you
We have
know,
an 8-month discrepancy.
was there something involved? I could not find in a very fast search of the agendas of the Architectural Review Board, which reviews signs when they're not involved with the
Right.
historic district. I did not find any application there, and I didn't find, some time back that I looked at the planning board, but the planning board also gets involved with signs. So the question is, this sign might be a problem in terms of having appropriate review.
Yeah, I'll check with my client and make sure they've gotten all their proper permits for it.
Okay, well, that would be
That's not-
useful to be informed about with respect to this. There, there are the owner of the building also has apparently put up his own signs for their own purposes without having approvals, I know, from either the Landmarks Board in the historic district context or the Architectural Review Board. So, there's a larger cultural element to this particular business of the signs on this property. I think we can approve this, but what I would ask the board to do is to also provide the possibility of receiving written confirmations back as to the conditions for the placement of the dime bank signs that may or may not have been appropriately approved by the town agencies. And
Yeah, but I mean, we're really only here though for that one little sign under the balcony.
right, but the question is, the dime bank has possibly a sign that has not been and has been and perhaps should have been subject to review as to size and placement and so on. There's considerable concern, I think, that I read from people in the community about the level of billboarding for signs in the community, and that's why I think be important to kind of keep that consideration of having them correctly approved or reviewed before their placement. So if the board would be agreeable that we would issue a certificate of appropriateness upon your providing a written response as to what or how this sign perhaps had gotten here, whether it's been appropriately approved or you do not have approval for it.
Okay, but so let's just assume that there was no approval for that. What does that mean for the other sign, that it's not
Well,
approved?
I think then it would mean that application for a certificate of approval for this sign be made, and the other sign certainly would be, I think, approved, as long as there was subject to...
I have no problem checking with my client. I'm trying not to hold up this the application for this specific sign.
Right, well, but we're also trying to be conscious of the fact that signs on this property do have some complaint that have been made. So I think it's important for us to try and, on behalf of the community, to say these signs are subject to review and have that review take place. By saying one sign is okay while knowing that there may be a possible illegal sign is problematic. I have not checked with town council, but I will check with town council about this as well. And we need to find out whether or not there is a legitimate process that should be followed for the signs that are in the historic district, rather than just a wink and a nod.
Oh, I understand, but I just don't believe that sign should hold up this sign.
Well, it's an attention-getting moment about the signs for not only Dime, but the other signs on the property. And
Right, but
whether or
we
not...
don't represent the property owner in this application. We represent, Dime.
Well, I did see your name on the first, on the property owner's consent affidavit that was submitted to us,
Then that was
also with your name on it.
Brian DeCessa, you mean?
Yes, Brian DeCessa, yeah.
That's not me.
Well, but he mentions you being authorized to,
Well, they're the property owners, so they have to authorize the application, but we don't represent the property owner in connection with their improvements to this building.
so, okay, in any case, the Dime Bank sign still remains a question, an open question. So I think if we get the written report from you that the sign was subject to the right kinds of applications and review,
Okay.
that would settle both that sign and this parking lot sign.
I don't think this sign should be separated. If you're issuing a COA for signage, it should be all the signs, not piecemeal signs.
Yeah, well, the question, there is a question of some of the timing, and I agree in general as a concept.
When
But
At
the,
least for Dime Bank. And if that sign didn't get a COA and it was installed after the historic district, it needs a COA. It's illegal.
oh, right, I agree. That's, an application would need to be made, and that's the kind of,
But I
But
think
when
should
we
look at an
submitted-
application for all the signs as a group, not for individual
Right, but
signs.
we
Yeah.
initially submitted a building permits for all of the signs, and the only thing that we got a denial for was the sign that we're appearing for tonight.
Then that was done improperly.
Well, depends when we applied.
Did you apply after the historic district?
I have to go back and check.
Check.
so, are you willing to take up the communication on this as our point of reference? So, and,
I think you should hold off on the COA for the sign until you get an application for this sign if it needs an application.
We don't even know if it needs a sign, if it needs an application.
well, we should find out. I mean, that's the, problem. We basically, in a casual look at the records that are out there, there was no information about that sign being approved. And the question is, do you have something that shows that it was approved by the appropriate bodies?
Okay, but again, that sign is not the subject of this application.
It should be if it.
It's part of the
It should be all
signage of
the
the building,
signs, yeah,
the whole building.
including the owner's sign.
Right, the owner's sign and any other tenants.
And the one-way signs, all of it.
But he's here representing just the Dime Bank.
Just the
sign.
Dime Bank.
That sign says Dime
A
Bank.
specific
Right,
sign.
yeah, but not all the
Well, I
feral,
don't mean,
not the
I think that has to be handled
separate,
with other people,
right,
but this gentleman is representing a Dime,
right.
so we should hit all the Dime the Dime signs should have appropriate approvals.
Right, but what I'm saying is if we submitted a building permit application to the town of Southampton, and the town of Southampton issued permits for all of the signs except the
Well-
singular sign that we're appearing for tonight,
Show us the permit for that sign.
I'll have to go back and get it. I thought the town would have it.
I think one hand
Well,
tells the other hand what they're doing.
Building permits, generally speaking, would not encompass signs in terms of
Sign permit.
regulation of signs in the town overall. That's why there are an architectural review board to give advice to the
understand.
planning board on the signs. So all this. And I can understand that there can be confusion among the different boards that are involved, certainly. But with respect to this particular location, the Dime Bank sign, I think, should be subject, close to the highway sign should be subject to review as to the size and character of the sign within a historic community context.
Does that little sign under the portico require a variance?
That it does require a variance
Yes.
because it doesn't face a public street.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the sign that's before the zoning board.
Correct.
And these signs comply with, I presume they comply with code, that's why they got a building permit?
That's, yeah, I mean, that, we only received this, an
They should not
application.
have gotten a building permit without a COA if they were installed, or the application was after the creation of the historic district. They should not receive the building permit.
Yeah, if, we have to, I guess we have to figure that out.
All right, I'll look into that tomorrow.
Okay, all right. So we don't have objection to the
Okay,
parking
so
lot sign?
I guess my question is there a way that we can do this so if that was properly permitted prior to the board being, or having jurisdiction over it, can we get the certificate of
Well,
appropriateness for the other?
Yeah, if it is properly there, I don't see then that we have any problem
My suggestion would be to adopt the COA condition upon
upon.
Correct.
those signs being legal.
Okay.
If it turns out they're legal, then you'll have your COA.
Mhm.
You don't have to come back to this board.
And condition on the variance as well.
And the signs we're talking about are just the Dime Bank
Correct.
signs, not the
Not the owner.
landlord signs.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And just those two right there?
All the dime bank signs.
There are a couple of, I think, parking lot arrow signs in the back of the property in the parking lot too. I've received one comment at least about them, but I don't think they're significant. It's basically what's so visible and imposes itself on the street that I think is the most important element of the signage for Dime Bank.
Do you remember, did Bridgehampton National Bank have a sign in that location?
They had a sign on the front of the building.
But at that little parking lot entrance?
I don't remember that at all because
Doesn't look
this aerial here, I think I had one. Let's see if I can get a oblique view here. Why isn't this?
Doesn't look like it's there.
There we go. Okay, well, this is an era, this is March 2023. And if I can blow this up enough. You don't see a sign here that is the billboard sign compared to what we see here right close to the sidewalk.
The one-way sign appears to be
So,
something in that location.
and this is when Dime owned the bank before it sold to the new owner. So Dime had its signature logo, a logo, not the colorful one it has now. And then these were the entrance signs that directed traffic to the bank activity underneath that covered drive area there. So anyway, the proposal then is to approve it subject to, what was your language again?
Conditioned upon, what did I say? On the condition that the existing signs receive a certificate of appropriateness if required.
Okay, and that would depend on the timing issue
Correct.
of when the sign was constructed compared to the time when the historic
Well,
district.
I would say at the time that the permit for the sign was issued. If the permit was issued prior to the historic district.
Right, yes, okay,
Then it would be legal.
right, okay. So we have that motion. Is that any further discussion of it? So all those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it'll be approved when we find out the rest of the story.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming and providing additional information and background on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, okay, we can go back to our usual appetite of demolitions. And the up here.
Yep.
And, okay.
Okay, this is a demolition application that was submitted for 1 Summit Boulevard, located in West Hampton. This is very close to property we visited at 109 Montauk Highway not very long ago. The building on this property, though, is somewhat younger than the timber frame structure we looked at previously on the property down the street. This property shows up on quite a few of the historic maps, but it is not clear that the existing building is the same as some of those shown on the 1838 or the 1858 or even the 1873 map. This building has an AYB of 1905. And from a number of the features in the building, I would guess that that is probably about right. This is probably something that was constructed about the turn of the century. I've known this building all of my life, and I dare say other people in this room too have seen this building for decades. It has been neglected for a very long time. It is presently, that green covering is asbestos shingles over original shake siding, cedar shake siding. The windows are 2/2. They look to be original. There's still some original storm windows and screens on some of these. But the building has been significantly neglected for many, many years. No painting, no repairs. There was perhaps a porch on the front at one time that is no longer present. There's an area of exposed framing between the first and second floors at the level where the porch may have been attached, and then there was a porch definitely on the back here that was removed at some point in time. It appears that both volumes of the building were built at the same time. It has a continuous brick foundation, and some of the details underneath the roof overhangs on both volumes are the same. Unfortunately, this building has been lived in by people who hoarded materials. You can see from the picture there the level of materials in this building. Basically, the entire first floor is essentially waist deep in materials. There's not even a trail through them. I was wading over the top of these things. I was glad I wore heavy shoes that day. So there are 3 stories, or 3 rooms on the first story, a kitchen in the back, a middle room, and then a front room. The building originally faced Montauk Highway, which I think is the main, it's the main post road there, and this was probably built relative to Montauk Highway. Ed, can you pull up the pictures at the end of my report? Because some of those are kind of interesting. The cellar, we have our usual brick cellar. This one is not round, but it's oval. And it features in the center of it an original coal-fired boiler that was used to heat the house by the American Boiler Company, which I meant to look up tonight to see when it may have actually been. Yeah, there you go. If you'd scroll down, you can see that was the original front of the house. There's the original front of the house on the west side. There's the back of the house. There's where that arrow is. There's a hole in the side of the house. It looks like it's been an entry point for squirrels. Let's see. Oh, that's the only picture I took of the inside of the shed right there. The shed has got materials like up to my chest. I can't get in there at all. And there's nothing historic about the shed. It's just wood frame with plywood walls, strand board roof, and just chock full. These are the pictures I took inside. Plaster walls, plaster coming down off the ceiling in quite a few places. You can see the materials. That was the front room of the house. Scrolling through, that's a chimney in the kitchen area. There's another picture of the kitchen area. If you could continue scrolling down. There is the middle room, which features now in the center of it I think it's an oil-fired hot air, forced air heating system that replaced the original coal-fired system. Ceiling you can see there coming down. Again, I didn't picture the lower part because it's just absolutely full of materials. This is if you can go back just one to the picture, yeah, that page. There's the picture of the stairwell going from the second floor looking down to the first floor. There is the original newel posts on the side, on the right side. They're very plain. All the decorative elements in this house were extremely plain, squared, very little ornamentation at all. On the left side there, they simply nailed pieces of 2x4 to the side to use as handrails. That's what it's like. This is one of the bedrooms upstairs. Somebody actually tried to cover over the what was likely plaster walls with this fake wood paneling and a really bad sheetrock job on the ceiling. And this room, the upstairs room, fortunately, the debris in these rooms was maybe knee high, so not quite as bad as the first floor. You can see they've tacked plastic over the insides of the windows to keep the place warm in the winter. I couldn't actually see how they got hot air from that forced air furnace from the first floor into the second floor of the house. I didn't see any registers or any way to get it upstairs. There's another bedroom upstairs showing original beadboard ceiling. Remarkably, I didn't see any significant water damage in this house. That roof has kept the water out. But at any rate, and then if you can scroll down, here's the entrance to the basement. You can see the side walls, the brick walls are collapsing. These stairs are interesting. They're the curved brick stairs that we've seen on some of the other local houses. Kind of interesting. And there's our friend, the boiler, coal-fired. And if you scroll down a little further, you can see the curved walls on the side of the cellar there. Here is the coal chute. They actually still had the metal chute in the basement that was used to direct coal into, there's a walled off area right below the chute there. You can see the back wall is that curved brick wall, and there's a wood wall on the left side. There's a window just to the left, and they probably put the chute out the window and shoveled the coal in and got it into the basement so they could feed their boiler. Never seen the actual chute before. Seen coal whole areas.
That went through a window?
Yes, it went through a window. I have similar situation in my house where I have an area where coal is stored and there's an outside window, but I don't have the chute anymore. This is the framing in the house. It is fully dimensional sawn lumber. I did not see any indications of timber framing or hand-hewn elements. There's a bunch of knob and tube wiring. And you can see over on the left-hand side there, white pipe. That is asbestos-covered boiler pipe. Most of the asbestos is in not nearly so good condition in the basement. It's falling off. So, and then a lot of the first floor is supported not by brick piers, but by wood posts. Wood posts I was able to see show evidence of insect infestation of various kinds. So at any rate, if this house were to be salvaged, it would definitely require some foundation work. I mean, overall, if there wasn't so much neglect and so much stuff in this house, I didn't see any huge structural problems with it. But it is a house with really ancient systems in it that with no updating, no maintenance, no care. It's been basically allowed to deteriorate beyond a reasonable level, I think, of salvage here. Cesspool systems are collapsed outside in the yard. It's seen its days, and it didn't seem to be associated with any persons of note in the community. I looked up all the people whose names were associated with this property on the maps. I could not find any records in the Long Island surname database or the other places I would normally look for this sort of thing. So there doesn't appear to be any historic associations with this house. And I have talked with people in the neighborhood, and the general feeling is they will be delighted to see it gone. So I don't see any reason to object to this particular demolition. And I honestly, even though there's original doors in here, circa 1900 doors, original 2/2 windows, I don't see, there's no particular ornamentation or anything particularly fascinating about any of them. So I don't even see a recommendation to salvage here.
I was just wondering about the windows. Are they any of those salvageable?
Well, I mean, the glass is probably still salvageable, but I mean,
They're pretty deteriorated.
they're pretty deteriorated. I mean, the wood, it hasn't been painted, it hasn't been otherwise maintained, and a lot of them are exposed to the weather. A lot of the caulking on them is pretty well shot, so I can't really see any reason to try to salvage them.
Well, we were in this neighborhood, I think, last month,
We were.
dealing with the demolition of these buildings here as well, somewhat problematic.
Yeah.
Any comments? My compliments to the exploratory character of your endeavor and for the diagnostic descriptions for the structure as well, and the pictures, very nicely done, I think. So the consensus is no objection to the demolition. Let me ask a theoretical question. And just as an introductory sentence, David, Kelly Doyle, and myself had a meeting with the supervisor to discuss a preservation opportunity pause for demolition applications. And since we don't have experience, and this is just totally hypothetical, mental experiment, according to your own standards of judgment, would this be a house that you would find worthy of recommending for a pause rather than for immediate demolition?
No.
No, I can think of other ones we've reviewed recently
Yeah.
that I think would be worthy of a pause, but
Okay,
personally,
well, I
I
was just.
can't see this
Yeah, I
one.
was just trying the
This is where the
exercise of the kind of judgment, mental work that goes into,
Well, you know, there's a batch
looking
of
at
houses
something like
along the
this.
highway that have been redone, that are frame houses. And some of them lived in, some aren't, but within, let's say, the last 5 or 6 years. And this house doesn't have any visible, anything that looks redeeming about it. But it's certainly possible to rebuild it like they rebuilt all those other wood ones. And you could certainly tart it up with new porches and whatever. But well, the question is it worth the effort? And I don't think so. You know, but it definitely, any of these buildings like this can be fixed. I mean, that's not, it's standard framing. It's not even hewn timbers. And so it could definitely be salvaged and made into something, but not worth it.
Yeah, I think the level of effort that would be required here and the cost that would be required here, and I'm speaking from my own, I've recently
Yeah.
gone through one of these, it would be very significant, and without, at the end of the day, a significant historic association or
Doesn't have
a
any of that back.
beautiful
Yeah.
wood interior or, some other significant redeeming value of this building. I'm not sure I would see, wanting to invest in that.
See, one of the things it has going for it, though, is that, like you said, it didn't have a bunch of water infiltration.
No,
It would have rotted it out all to pieces. So it makes it a quicker job if you're going through it to reframe it as needed to make it into something. But
There's
the
not
only
a-
half interesting thing about it is the way that rear, what I would think of as a rear addition, how the gable roof is butted in under the larger gable roof, which is a little strange.
but I think those two volumes, I think, were built at the
I
same
know,
time.
you said that about the
Yeah,
foundation.
if you look at underneath, you can see that the boards are the same and the trim around the edge is the same, so unless
It's a
they,
little uncomfortable, though, the way that smaller addition roof terminated into the back of the main,
Mhm.
underneath that main roof. Like, why would you do that? But anyway, so
Well, if
back.
it came in later, it would be a good excuse.
or not, or it's just a vernacular example of something
Well,
that
that's
was
right,
kind
yeah.
of thrown up.
It'd be its
And-
only vernacular feature other than the oval basement.
Yeah.
But,
It's not enough of a cultural resource to warrant having a major stance on it.
yeah.
Okay, well, would you do the honors?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you. So, just for the record of the agenda, we had a screening review for 86 Old Country Road, East Quogue, and it was determined that it was not warranted for a full review. I forget what was I forget what the,
This was work already done, and it was primarily maintenance type work. Windows and roof were replaced, and a pergola was removed, and they had a new bathroom inside. But there was very little that actually affected the exterior portion of the building.
right, okay. So, well, yes, no significant impact on the proposed work, and the work was already done as well, so. Okay. And that was reviewed by Stephanie, Bill, and myself as a screening review. Okay, on the rest of the items on our agenda, 292 Majors Path is a landmark application that needs some write-up, and I hope to get to work on that. And thank you, Susan, for your majors list that you sent around today.
It could be Wiggins. I mean, there's a chance he lived on Noyak.
Well, not to go down way too far from the path here, but have you ever considered that Major's Path was not named after a military figure? And I mean, there are several alternatives, you know. There might have been some person once talking about a minor and a major path that got differentiated early on in the history of the town. You know, it was going between places. And the other possibility is there was somebody by the last name of Major that might have been around as well, so.
Somebody suggested to me that maybe there was a horse named Major at the writing facility.
Okay, now we
I
are getting.
thought, I hadn't really thought about that, so.
Yeah, it would
Could've been-
considerable research to try and.
So
pin-
anyways, but
pin down.
that's,
Yes, so. 85 Eastway, we do not have any information on. 4 Beaver Dam Road is up for a work session with the town board on April 8th. I hope to be asking Julie Green to come forward to participate in that. 18 Flying Point Road is up for an April 8th as well, work session. And I don't know what the time of it is, whether it's in the morning or not, but Vicki, would you be interested in handling that? Okay. There was a problem delivering the notice of a public hearing to Troy Buckner, but David, I think, got him on the telephone to the certified mail notice that went out was not picked up, and so that raised a timing problem. So, but that seems to be resolved at the moment. 65 Old Riverhead Road is still in progress. 520 Montauk Highway, you received a document printed by the Peconic Land Trust this evening that will be associated with a discussion of 520 Montauk Highway in April. And we'll be asking for some information. I was going to get in contact with the neighbor who was originally interested and ask for their assessment of the process for the discussion over relocation of the Atterbury House, estate house, that's there. And also I would like to provide a record as, you know, just as a basis in the file as to the level of study that was done on that property previously for artifacts associated with the exploration of cultural resource on that property. And, you know, eventually put this all together, and then for discussion at the April meeting to discuss what course of action we would recommend for that demolition permit that has been filed by the Peconic Land Trust for that house. And hopefully that meeting will be a little bit more cooler than the previous discussion of this project. Nothing to report on the windmill on the Stony Brook Southampton campus, and And I assume no one has heard anything on 11 Walnut and 149 South Country
With regard
Road.
to the windmill, I was talking to Julie Green recently. She said there's some interest in possibly moving that back to Southampton.
Well, there was a previous proposal to do that, and the powers that be at the time said, no way it stays on the Southampton campus. And I had a brief engagement. As you know, former Assemblyman Fred Thiel was a proponent of having it saved
There.
and having the CPF responsible for its maintenance and restoration. And that Assemblyman Thiel is out of office, so one of the major people to push buttons is somewhat out of the scene at the moment. And Assemblyman Schiavone has not indicated whether or not he would take up the cause the same way as Assemblyman Thiel did, but it's probably more discussion needs to be involved. There was a turnover of leadership, big turnover of leadership at the Stony Brook administration, and that kind of helped stall things as well. And I haven't heard recently of that suggestion that you mentioned, that it be moved back to the village of Southampton.
Well, we could always put it on the Great Lawn in West Hampton Beach to go with our other one.
So,
We could have a whole series of them there.
Isn't
Yes.
that windmill, wasn't that windmill on the corner of Windmill Lane?
Yeah.
So it was in the village.
Yeah, it was moved. That's the reason they were
Yes.
talking about moving it back.
Right, but,
And it's got a bunch of gears laying outside that are cast iron that went inside it that ran the grindstones. And if it does get moved, those artifacts really ought to stay with the windmill.
It's my understanding from recent discussions with some of the folks at the university, with the new leadership at the university, that
well,
windmill is
there's-
not going anywhere.
I don't know of anybody being in contact with him, so, and, this probably needs somebody to initiate some communications and activity around it to try and get the situation clarified.
Let's get the supervisor to do it. She worked on the last one.
Well, we have several things on the supervisor's agenda already without shoveling more at her at this particular moment, but so. Okay, so, and as I mentioned, there are, previously we had a meeting with the supervisor on ways to kind of increase possibly the ability to limit the amount of quick demolitions of historic buildings. And that discussion is going to be taken by the supervisor, sounding out some colleagues on the town board before any kind of more formal activity is undertaken with that. So we await whatever opinion is going to be returned on that. Do we have anything else that we want to?
Would that, I just had a quick question on that. Would that affect like buildings that weren't in a historic district and weren't listed that we just came upon somewhere? I mean, that's not on any list but we think it, all of a sudden it should be preserved. Would that kind of demolition pause kick in with some kind of a building like that?
Well, the concept was any demolition application for buildings that meet the current standard for review, which is all buildings before 1941 in the assessors database, or in Hamlet Heritage Area reports, or in the historic survey of 2014. So that would be the pool of properties that would be subject to that kind of review. So, any other kinds of things that we should be entertaining?
Just as an FYI, I've received several inquiries about the Hattie Halsey tenant house. Apparently it's for sale, or the estate is trying to sell it, and the inquiries have been relative to the landmarking and whether it could be demolished. There was an appraiser in today who the estate was hired to do an appraisal on the house, and that was his primary question is, well, you know, if it can't be demolished, then that affects the value of the property. So I gave him a copy of the town board resolution, the town code, and the landmarks board report. He seemed to indicate that he would base his appraisal on the fact that it's a landmark building and there's no guarantees that it could be torn down.
Which
Easily.
house was that?
The Hattie Halsey tenant house?
Okay.
You did the report on that, Susan.
Where is it?
On David White's Lane, just past the intersection
David
with Hedda
White's
Ponds.
Lane. Yeah.
Just, let me see if I can,
The one right by North Sea Mecox?
Yeah, it's on the west side. It's, I think, surrounded by farmland.
let's see, it's not far from 18 Flying Point Road.
It's David White's Lane, right near the junction with Vine Point.
Yeah, so,
Between
let's
Vine Point
go
and
out
North
here.
Sea Mecox.
well, here,
Yeah. there you
okay.
go.
It's, I think it's this house right here.
I think it is, yes.
Yeah. Let me identify it to see if it,
Owner very specifically, because I remember
That's a
touring
flag on
it,
saying it's landmark.
wanted it landmarked so it wouldn't be demolished.
Oh, you don't have those flags.
533 David White's Lane, North Sea.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it has any kind
The
of
only one
other,
that sat there.
You don't have a little flag icon underneath there? Ed?
no? No. We use a different system than you do.
That's why we had that question that one time.
And let's see if it has permits here. This doesn't have much. Doesn't even have the, maybe that's not the house. Maybe it's the one next door. But it looks like the tenant house. This is the
Who's
farm.
the owner?
The owner is Cornwall Revocable Living Trust versus the next door one is Benat Burger.
Maybe that's not,
I think that the one
that might not.
below is the old, it was the, like, when I first moved out here, it was the only house on David White's in that stretch.
Let's see if I have, get my files here for Watermill. David White's Lane, David Lane. Landmark 2017, 173 David's Lane.
It's not the same.
And so it's 173 David's, that's someplace else.
It's someplace
That's
else.
down below
Yeah, down
Hampton
in-
Coffee, the one we toured, 17,
Yeah.
mid-17.
Um,
Can you pull it up? I'm curious if the flag is on there, because it should be.
I'll go back here. And this is, and let's see if this does not have any record of landmarks review.
Well, that's not the property.
Yeah, so,
It's the one right
I-
below that
That's a
one.
brand new mega house.
yeah.
I think that is the property, 533.
It is 533.
Oh,
Hmm.
I thought
Yes.
you just said the address at that.
No, it's 533.
No, it's 533.
It's designated a town landmark, yeah.
But it has not any documentation, it doesn't, if I put in 533,
So how's the
David
public
White's
supposed to
Lane,
know that it's
North
landmarked?
Sea. Oh, okay, so, here we go. It's described as North Sea, yes.
Wait, what was that flag that just came up there?
The landmark flag.
That was the landmarks flag that come up, yeah.
When you type in the address, so I guess it's
It's-
not coming
yeah.
up when you click
It's-
the
Oh, okay. You have to
navigator.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Right, and the other mistake was that my geographical boundary was Watermill, when it's actually North Sea.
Yeah.
And that, but even so, in looking at the question of, permits or documentation, it does not have the documents for landmarking associated with it. That probably should be there. So we can try and figure out that aspect.
What's the next tab? The next tab after permits?
The next
Tab?
Documents.
So there's 3 tabs right above the large blue.
pictures,
Uh-huh.
documents.
What's the sec- What is, can we check documents and see? What's in the
Zero
documents?
documents, so, yeah,
That would be.
yeah. And, all right, so, and that was done, I think, about 2017.
Sounds about right. I
Six-
mean, we have the
16.
documentation. I wrote the history. I know we made several site visits there. In fact, the one woman who had lived there as a child came back to look at it also, Mrs. Dehecke.
It was
I mean, as
2016.
I recall, meeting the homeowner, there's a very specific reason he wanted to landmark it. He saw what was happening around him, and he didn't want that to happen to his house. And I didn't realize he passed away, I think a short time, he passed away not long after it was landmarked, which I didn't realize that he was sick, but I assume he was at the time, but he was very, very specific about not wanting to have his house demolished or look like any of the other ones that he saw appearing on the landscape there.
Yes, this is 2015, and you did provide the introductory comments about the phone call and the facade easement and the visitation with Sally Spanberg and Sheila Comparetto, who was on the Landmarks Board at the time that took place. So anyway, we know what house we're talking about now anyway.
But it was sort of, he was on a mission to make sure that he
So,
got it landmarked, and that was just something and I don't know, I just thought after we'd made the site visit, I didn't realize, you know, maybe the condition of his health or what was going on, but he just, that was his mission. So, and he accomplished it, and so I guess, as a member of the board, I would hate to see anything.
Well, it would be sold if it's maintained and in structurally sound condition. I said it would be sold, you know, and it's structurally sound, it won't be demolished, you know. That's what a landmark is for.
Right, so that's right. So if people are inquiring, I would like to think we would relay that information to them. Or somebody would, not we, but that would be relayed.
Anything on the minds of anyone else?
I don't know, Vicky, did you have anything on the CLG or no?
Oh, I should have a
Oh,
draft.
yes.
I will have a draft report. I actually had a problem with the internet today, but it's all resolved and I do have a draft, so I can
Okay.
share that with you, so we can work on that.
Well, thanks for, you know, packing things together. And Susan, thank you for your bookkeeping work.
Well, that's it. I was just gonna make the quick comment. You know, when I do this and I'm, you know, working with Vicky, because Vicky's doing a lot of the record keeping, particularly with the referrals. So going back through it, I did go through the minutes and different kinds of things. So in the end, I decided with the easements is to separate what was a town landmark from what was, you know, in the town itself, like Madhu. So there would be two different categories. And I found out, I didn't realize what Tina had gotten theirs in November. So I found that at some place in the town record. So I tried to correct that, and I think also the 560 bridge hadn't, the easement might be in discussion, but hasn't been finalized.
And that's,
But anyways,
that's
those are the
outside.
numbers. But when it comes to the
Susan,
easement, a couple of them, I just put question mark. I have no idea what the status is
Susan,
going on.
that one you were talking about in Sagaponic is outside the window of the audit period that we're, you know, looking at. Just to remind everybody, SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, is conducting an audit of the Landmarks Board and historic preservation activity for a period of time that in their formula window is for 4 years. But since we've been a certified local government for only 2, it raises a little bit of mixing the report, mixing into the report diverse ingredients. And we kind of have to be careful of not claiming activity that belongs to another certified local government unit like Sagaponic or Sag Harbor or the Village of Southampton, because they are separate governmental entities. But anyway, it's the first time around for us, and we're learning things.
I think I'm gonna ask SHPO if we can, if it's okay for us to provide the web link to some of the documents that they want, instead of, will be a little bit more environmentally appropriate rather than sending them 100 pages of documents, because they're really asking for quite a bit of backup material.
Right.
And we have everything online, so it will be a little better. And then also, I'd like to thank Dave for sending around the information about the upcoming Landmarks Conference meeting in Rochester. But I didn't,
Do you all get those emails from the?
I got it directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
So I don't need to forward that every.
No,
Right,
but I
yeah.
did not know
Yeah.
that we were eligible. I already paid for the conference. I didn't realize we were eligible for a scholarship. As being on a board, we didn't have to actually pay the fee. So that was very good to know. So if any of you want to join me up there.
Those webinars, are we supposed to pay for those? I've been paying for, like the one on Neon, the one that's coming up.
As per David's email.
Forget what it is, but it,
Uh,
they're like,
Deconstruction, or you put the
yeah,
little code
deconstruction,
in.
yeah.
Larry, I signed you up for one.
The first one.
Well, I probably double signed. No, I did do that one. I didn't sign up for that. You did.
I signed up for it
Thanks.
and entered the code.
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay, and
none of you need to pay for those national, what
Right.
is it?
I think I paid for it. I don't care.
National Association of Preservation Commission.
This is why you have
Yeah.
to open up your email once in a while. That's the codes come through on the email.
We'll look for that.
And just very quickly, with my list, Vicky, the fiscal years are different, so I won't go. It's like comparing apples and oranges. So, if they don't, my things don't look like they align with Vicky's, it's just because they're different, fiscal years. And then I was looking at CPF and their fiscal year was actually ended, I'm not sure what it was, June. But you do the best you can by sorting through all that, but, so that's why anything that with Vicky and I, that she really needs to rely on her numbers and information versus mine because of you can refer back and forth just to jog your memory, and I look at hers, but they don't just align exactly, so that's.
Vicki, didn't we submit a lot of the same information to get qualified as a CLG?
Yes, but actually they want some more recent information.
Okay.
So it's okay.
We've
We've
only
got
been a CLG for how many years?
two,
Two.
a little over
And
two.
they're already auditing us?
Because we fall within their statutory audit period, so every 4 years, basically, they have an audit. And it applies to everyone, so you'll
Well, I
see
thought
my
they
director.
randomly picked different.
No, they claim it's everyone.
I think they have tiers that they proceed through of their CLG units. And
Yeah.
just put us in
Okay.
a particular one.
Yeah, they want,
All.
right, they want, for example, they want to see exactly how we document COAs. So they want an example. So the decision for us as a board is which one do we want to select,
Well, instead of having a committee select it,
We're going to select.
we'll
Yes.
talk about it.
In my notes there, I have some suggestions, so you can take a look at them, okay?
Okay, anything else? And I'm glad you mentioned the CLG business. Anything, and nothing from, we had a suggestion of an idea a while back of having a common place for the kind of reference material that would be used by board members, like maps and historic volumes. Yes, and that instead of, everybody, passing around individual things every once in a while, that there'd be a common resource arena for that. Can you do more thinking and looking
Well,
at
I
it?
think we could do it. Just provide me with all the documents that you want in this central location and we'll upload them.
Mhm. Okay, well,
Great.
that's something to do then. We'll start compiling the historic volume material and the historic mapping material that's involved so that it can be commonly made available to everybody. So I noticed, that the 1902 map that Stephanie uses is in black and white and a little unsharp in resolution.
Yes, it'd be better to have one that's in better
Yeah.
condition.
Yes, there is mapping. The actual more original mapping is available, and I think the mapping that I got was maybe gotten from the East Hampton Library website. But I have all the maps anyway, so they can be.
Do you have PDFs of the maps or do you go to a link?
No, they are downloaded. They're sitting on my computer.
Okay.
At the moment, if I take you to my Suffolk maps, I have
A lot more than I have.
1902, the maps for Southampton Township, all over, page by page.
And they're high resolution, you can zoom in on them pretty well. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
And
That would be certainly an improvement. If
Yeah, I don't think
you
that's a
just
problem at
Google
all.
the word 1902 Belcher Hyde map, it will pull up
Yeah,
This
items
is
of various
West Hampton.
1902
resolutions.
Belcher Hyde maps.
Yeah, this is a high resolution.
I'm trying to discern the,
Wow,
you can see the I's are dotted.
That's my house.
So,
Oh, yeah. No, was that your house?
And the Howe House Hotel was there. And
was that it?
yeah,
Where is it now?
it's
Oh, right here?
right up. No, go up. That's the hotel. Go straight up, right by Aspatuck there. Right there. No, you passed it. Right there.
Uh-huh.
That's the barn, and the house is up front on the south side.
But in any case, this should be easily available to everybody.
Oh, great.
And your link for the Chase map, that was, you gave that to me years ago.
I got
It's
that
like I was
from-
taking pictures off the,
I got
one on
that
my
from the
wall.
Boston Public Library.
Yeah, exactly. That's,
And it was they did such a high resolution rendition of it.
Yeah.
I
so that
can't-
one I use, of course, all the time.
If I think about that 1858 Chase map. So the original, and it appropriately places a nice rendition of various hamlets on the map as well. But the size of the image of the original is 150 megabytes. So it's, whenever you want to have it load into your, the wall map is very, is a very big map, but it has very fine details.
Well, I got one that was in my aunt's boarding house, but unfortunately there's water damage down at the bottom where the most important for Southampton anyway. So this is,
So just to one up here, Larry, this is the house I live in. Noah Halsey house in Halsey.
Where's that? No,
This is Lumber Lane, this is Lumber Lane here, Scuttle Hole Road,
okay.
and Brick Hill Road leading off in this direction of
Oh,
Salem.
yeah, okay.
As I learned today, it's still a confused boundary. The official designation of that house now is Sag Harbor Postal District. But for years, the house has been always associated with Bridgehampton. It faces Bridgehampton. Today I went to vote, and sure enough, the Board of Elections got it mixed up. They had my 69 Brickhill Road address listed under a Bridgehampton, New York zip 11932. So the Board of Elections people took a full hour to get me to vote through casting an affidavit ballot. First time I ever did that. And it was also the first time with the installation of these new voting machines. That in itself is a bit of an acrobatic event, sticking it in one way and having it flip around and come out. And,
You think you voted
and you're
to have it?
pushing the screen all over the place. And it was a simple ballot today. I kind of hate to think how many buttons on the screen you're going to be pushing, you know, in the future, but it's all a learning experience anyway. Are we ready to go? If there's no other business, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.